The morning began like any other on Earth. Cities buzzed with life, children hurried to school, and workers filled the streets with laughter, dreams, and ordinary worries. No one knew that everything was about to change. High above the clouds, hidden beyond the reach of human eyes, an enormous shadow approached. It was the Vari Mothership, a colossal alien warship, dark as obsidian, silent as death. Its surface reflected starlight like liquid metal, spreading a strange golden hue across the atmosphere as it slid into orbit. The world froze in disbelief as emergency sirens wailed across every continent. For the first time in decades, every nation stood in unity, staring upward at a sky that no longer felt safe. News broadcasts flickered worldwide, showing the massive vessel blocking the sun like a terrifying eclipse. People panicked, praying, crying, calling loved ones. Others stood defiantly, fists raised, daring whatever came next. Humanity had long dreamed of contact with life beyond Earth, but this was not what they had imagined. The Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of alien civilizations, informed Earth that the Vari had broken their ancient peace. Earth, young and inexperienced in galactic affairs, was declared expendable, a casualty of necessity. Official messages from other planets arrived coldly. Prepare for destruction. Do not resist. They believed humanity would surrender easily. After all, what could these newcomers possibly do against the most feared empire in the stars? But Captain Mira Solon thought differently. Standing in the United Earth Defense Command Center buried deep under the Himalayas, Captain Mira watched the countless holographic screens crackling with data. She was slim, sharp-eyed, her dark hair tied back in a precise knot. Though her face remained calm, a storm raged behind her eyes. She had fought to earn Earth a seat among the Galactic Council. She had believed in unity. Now those same allies were abandoning them without mercy. "The Council wants us to roll over and die," growled General Elias Rourke, a scarred man with a voice like thunder. His fists were clenched behind his back. Rourke had survived 100 battles across Earth's colonies on Mars, Luna, and Europa. Not once had he surrendered. Beside him stood Lieutenant Nia Khan, young, clever, her fingers dancing across tactical projections. "The Vari will land troops in 13 hours, she whispered. "We are outgunned, outnumbered. Their technology is terrifying." Mira stepped forward, her voice low but fierce. "They think humanity is weak. They think our emotions, our chaos, our stubbornness make us lesser. They have forgotten the truth." She turned to face the room filled with officers, scientists, and soldiers. "We are survivors. We are dreamers. And when pushed to the edge, we become something unstoppable." Around her, weary faces lifted with slow, burning hope. "Activate Protocol Ember," Mira ordered. The room gasped. "That plan was never approved by the Council," warned Rourke. "If we use it, we either fight for Earth," Mira interrupted, "or we watch it burn from orbit." A tense silence followed. Then Rourke nodded grimly. "Yes, Captain." All across Earth's orbit, dormant satellites flickered with sudden life. They were ancient, old war relics from a forgotten era. Rusted shells equipped with clever traps, cloaked fusion mines, primitive kinetic spears, mirrors, and decoys. Not elegant like alien weapons, but brutal, clever, and perfectly placed. Hidden beneath the skin of Earth's peaceful appearance was a brutal defense web, one known only to a handful of commanders. As the Vari ship descended, spreading its terrifying golden glow, humanity held its breath. Highways emptied, families fled to bunkers. Temples, mosques, churches, and shrines were filled with people whispering every prayer known to mankind. But beneath that fear, something began to stir: rage, unity, and fire. Old enemies embraced. Flags became meaningless. All that mattered was Earth. 12 hours after Vari arrival, everything went silent. A colossal blue beam erupted from the underside of the Mothership, carving straight through Earth's clouds. The mountains trembled. Rourke stared at the screen. "They're beginning atmospheric destabilization. Once that beam reaches the mantle, we lose the planet." Mira lifted her hand. "Target grid 4, fire." Space ignited. 1,000 tiny explosions flared around the Mothership's hull as hidden fusion mines detonated in precise sequence. Shockwaves rippled through the atmosphere like a storm of blazing suns. The Vari shields flared in panic, their systems scrambling to respond to these sudden, unpredictable human tactics. Their AI had never imagined such primitive, reckless methods. In command centers worldwide, cheers erupted as the golden light flickered, shaking for the first time. On the streets, people burst from cover, shouting, chanting, clinging to hope. "We hurt them!" cried Nia, eyes wide. "It's just the beginning," Mira said softly. "Prepare phase 2. Today we show the galaxy what it means to be human." Outside, the sky burned with fire and defiance. The battle for Earth had begun. The first blast had rocked the Vari Mothership. But it did not fall. Instead, its massive body shifted like a wounded beast, drawing back into the safety of high orbit. Black smoke coiled across its silver surface, and flickering golden lights blinked wildly as the alien warship tried to understand what had struck it. No one in the Galactic Council had expected humanity to fight back. No one believed they even had the power. But Earth had delivered a clear message. We are not prey. In the hidden bunkers below the Himalayas, Captain Mira Solon watched the tactical feeds with sharp attention. Her heartbeat was steady, her hands still. Yet inside she felt a strange heat, pride mixed with terror. They had just made themselves a target unlike any before. The Vari never forgave. They never forgot. And by fighting back, humanity had guaranteed that the coming storm would be lethal. "What's the status of Protocol Ember?" she asked calmly. Lieutenant Nia Khan, her eyes alive with fierce determination, replied without hesitation. 70% of mines used, 30% still in orbit, but their positions are exposed. The Vari are scanning. They'll destroy the rest within an hour. Mira nodded once. "Understood. Begin transfer to Protocol Talon. General." Elias Rourke grinned, a scar stretching across his cheek. "We're moving to Talon already. Damn, Captain, I thought we'd at least wait for sunrise." "We won't have a sunrise if we wait," Mira answered sharply. Across the command center, exhausted technicians leaped into action. They were young, some barely out of university, others engineers pulled from civilian projects. There were no veterans of intergalactic war here, only humans determined to fight with everything they had left. Protocol Talon activated long-buried systems across Earth's deserts, oceans, and tundras. In the Sahara, metal doors slid open beneath the Shu, dunes revealing sleek missile launchers aimed skyward. In the deepest parts of the Pacific, ancient submarines surfaced, hissing and creaking as they prepared flight paths. On the snow-covered plains of Siberia, long-forgotten railguns powered up with loud electrical screams. Every continent, every ocean, every sky was now alive with weapons meant not for war among humans, but for protecting their species from extinction. As these systems prepared for launch, fear still seeped into the hearts of many. In London, people clung to each other, chanting old songs of courage. In Lagos, citizens passed water, bread, and solar-powered radios through crowds while volunteers guided children toward underground shelters. In Tokyo, monks struck temple, bells that echoed across empty streets, prayers ringing into the night. Tears and panic existed everywhere, but so did resolve. At 0300 hours, the Vari struck again. Massive pods hurtled from the mothership, burning through the upper atmosphere in glowing trails of molten orange. Each pod carried troops more terrifying than any nightmare. Tall, silver-skinned warriors with blade-like limbs and burning yellow eyes. When the pods hit the ground, they split open like monstrous eggs, releasing squads of Vari soldiers onto Earth's surface. The first landed in the ruins of Paris. Survivors hiding in the catacombs heard the crash above and felt the ground shake. As alien soldiers poured into the streets, they moved with perfect coordination, flawless efficiency. Their weapons pulsed with energy that melted stone. The Vari advanced smoothly, calculating pathways toward city centers to disable any possible resistance. They expected screaming, surrender, and terror. What they got were barricades. From behind overturned buses and crushed buildings, civilians opened fire with rifles, Molotov cocktails, and improvised drones. They were not trained soldiers. They were artists, teachers, mechanics, street vendors. But everyone had chosen to stand their ground. The Vari, shocked by such defiance from unarmored civilians, hesitated for crucial seconds. That was when humanity's hidden reserves struck. Out from the shadows roared armored vehicles flying old Earth flags, driven by special forces in rugged exosuits. Built of reinforced steel and powered by experimental reactors, these suits were clumsy compared to alien armor. But inside were human hearts full of fury. Bullets mixed with plasma fire as battles erupted across Paris, New Delhi, Rio de Janeiro, and Johannesburg. Every city became a war zone of desperate resistance. In Paris, an elderly baker named Henri threw his last bottle of wine, converted into a firebomb, at a Vari officer. As flames erupted around the alien, Henri shouted toward the sky, "For Earth!" before being dragged to safety by two teenagers from the street. Above them, human drones hacked with raw code attacked enemy ship sensors, blinding their targeting systems. What humans lacked in elegance, they made up with sheer chaos, and chaos was something the Vari had never mastered. Back in the command bunker, Rourke's voice thundered. "Artillery batteries, fire at will!" Siberian railguns unleashed. Tungsten slugs at hypersonic speeds, punching holes through drop pods still in descent. Pacific subs launched torpedoes at Vari support ships, turning alien reinforcements into flaming wrecks. Across the Sahara, missile silos fired streaks of white fire into the dark sky. Explosions lit up the night like a second dawn. "Report!" Mira demanded. Nia's voice cracked but strong. Multiple Vari landing units eliminated, survivors retreating to establish fortifications. Casualties on our side are heavy, but morale remains high. Mira closed her eyes for one brief second, letting the grief wash through her, then opened them again, steely and fierce. "They came expecting surrender," she said. "Instead, they found resistance. Let's show them what comes next." Outside, fires raged and smoke curled toward a blood-red moon. Humanity bled, but did not break. For every street the Vari claimed, humans took back 2. For every child they threatened, 10 more adults rose to fight. There was terror in every heart, but also unshakable love for the fragile blue planet beneath their feet. Inside the mighty mothership, Vari commanders stared at screens showing unexpected losses. Their AI flickered, confused. "Human resistance. Illogical," it streamed in static text. "Probability of surrender continues to decrease." Captain Mira watched this data come in, a cold smile on her lips. "This is only the beginning," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet fire. Above, them all, the once peaceful sky, now filled with fire and metal, glowed brighter still. Humanity had awakened, and they were not afraid. The battles raged across every continent. Smoke curled above broken skylines while strange golden clouds shimmered where Vari energy beams had scorched the air. Cities that once stood proud were now vast mazes of rubble, shattered glass, and courage. Yet even surrounded by destruction, humanity refused to bow. In every ruined street, there were stories of fierce determination, stories the Vari could not understand. In the ruins of New York, a young medic named Aria Flores crawled through fire and debris searching for survivors. Her hands were burned, her uniform torn, but her spirit unshaken. She had lost her brother during the first wave of attacks, yet she kept going, whispering words of comfort to strangers as she patched broken bodies and carried the wounded to makeshift shelters beneath the subways. "We keep fighting," she murmured to each shivering soul she saved. "For Earth, for tomorrow." Meanwhile, deep below the Atlantic Ocean, aboard the hidden command submarine Titan's Shield, Lieutenant Nia Khan monitored enemy signals. The flickering holographic screens danced with messy human code and strange Vari glyphs. Sweat trickled down her temple as she worked without rest, hacking, learning, predicting. Sleep was a luxury none of them could afford. "Enemy patterns changing," she announced, voice hoarse but steady. "They are adapting, trying to counter our chaos." Captain Mira Solon appeared on the screen, her face lit by cold blue command lights. "Then we change again," she said. "Prepare Operation Phantom. Time to strike where they least expect." General Rourke barked, "Send in the ghost teams." These ghost teams were Earth's most secret warriors, hand-picked soldiers, trained not for glory, but survival behind enemy lines. They wore flexible armor woven from lunar alloy, built to camouflage against any terrain. Led by the legendary Sergeant Victor Hale, a quiet giant with frost-blue eyes and a history of impossible missions, they prepared for their most dangerous task, infiltrating the Vari Mothership itself. In a hidden Arctic base, Hale addressed his 10 operatives. "We won't get medals," he said quietly, loading a battered rifle. "We won't get parades, but if we succeed, Earth survives." The team launched aboard a stealth shuttle coated in reflective nanotech, slicing upward, through the auroras like a dark arrow. They flew silently, weaving past enemy patrol craft, using low-tech gear and sheer nerve to avoid detection. The stars watched as humanity reached up, not with open hands, but with clenched fists. Back on the ground, civilians kept the fires of hope alive. In a destroyed school in Nairobi, children helped build barricades from desks and chalkboards. An old painter named Amina led them, her voice calm as she taught them not to fear the alien shadows, but to trust in each other. "We are strongest when we stand together," she said, handing out bread she had baked hours before her home collapsed. Their laughter returned for just a moment, soft and brave amid the screams of war. In São Paulo, groups of musicians dragged broken instruments into the shelter tunnels. Violins with snapped strings, drums with cracked skins. It didn't matter. With trembling hands, they began to play melodies of resilience. The music echoed through the pipes, drifting upward into the ruined city, reaching fighters locked in brutal combat. Many soldiers later swore that when hope was nearly lost, it was that strange music that kept them standing. From orbit, the Vari commanders watched the chaos below with growing unease. Their calculated invasion was supposed to be swift and merciless, yet everywhere they turned, humans surprised them, attacking from sewers, rooftops, forests, and shattered temples, using scrap metal and wire to build deadly traps, laughing in the face of doom, risking everything for people they barely knew. Human emotional response remains unstable, the Vari AI reported, lines of code flashing wildly. Underestimation confirmed. On board the stealth shuttle, Sergeant Victor Hale and his ghost team finally touched the underside of the Vari Mothership. Hanging in open space, clinging to its burning hot hull with maglock gloves, they sliced open a maintenance hatch and slipped inside. The interior was a nightmare of smooth alien architecture, glowing, humming, alive. Strange. Golden veins pulsed in the walls, as if the ship breathed. Hale signaled silently, using simple hand gestures learned from ancient Earth armies. Wordlessly, the team split into pairs, planting EMP bombs along core power lines and communication hubs. But as they moved deeper, Hale's wrist unit beeped once, a warning. One of the ghosts, Private Lynn, whispered, "Movement ahead." A Vari patrol slid into view, tall and cruel, arms ending in jagged blades. Hale's heart thundered as he quickly jammed a small device into the wall. It projected a holographic illusion of an empty corridor. The patrol hesitated, scanned, then passed by, fooled by human trickery. Lynn exhaled sharply. "Ghost team to command," Hale finally whispered. Charges planted, moving to extraction. Captain Mira's voice came through soft and proud. "Well done, Victor. Get out alive!" As the team began to escape, alarms suddenly blared. Lights shifted from gold to blood red. Somehow the Vari had detected something. Hale pressed forward faster, leading his team through twisting passageways. His final message crackled in the command center. "Even if we don't make it, light the spark." Back on Earth, Mira stood tall as the countdown reached 0. "Fire!" she commanded. Every charge placed by the ghosts detonated at once. Inside the mothership, systems shorted out. Lights died. Engines screamed. Vari forces paused mid-battle as their command ship faltered. In the skies above Earth, the vaunted invincible warship jerked violently, flames bursting from its vents as smoke poured into space. Across the planet, humans lifted their heads in disbelief and joy. "They did it," Arya whispered, tears rolling down her soot-streaked face. In bunkers, streets, and shattered homes, people screamed, cheered, and cried as the mothership shuddered. Music from São Paulo rose louder. The kids in Nairobi danced. Somewhere in New York's ruins, a woman hugged a stranger. They all knew the hardest battles were still ahead. But for the first time since the invasion began, they tasted something powerful, hope. And above them, the sky, once a symbol of terror, now glowed with the sparks of human defiance. The Vari mothership drifted above Earth like a wounded titan, sparks leaking from its burning metal veins. Inside, systems flickered while fractured alarms echoed endlessly through its golden halls. The explosions planted by Sergeant Victor, Hale's ghost team, had triggered chaos. Not enough to destroy the vessel outright, but powerful enough to cripple its command core. Across Earth's war-torn surface, every survivor watched the sky with wide eyes and pounding hearts. In the underground command center, Captain Mira Solon stood perfectly still as reports flooded in. Her face was pale from exhaustion, her uniform stained with ash, but her voice remained sharp as steel. "Status?" she demanded. Lieutenant Nia Khan, still operating without sleep, pushed wildfire hair from her eyes as she calculated enemy responses. "The mothership's defense systems are down 30%. Their landing waves are halting. They're scared to descend further." General Elias Rourke slammed his fist on the table with a savage grin. "Then we hit them harder. We don't give them a chance to recover." Outside their bunker, humanity answered his call. Tanks rolled out from hidden caverns in the Rockies. Missile trucks thundered across frozen fields in Canada, and thick supply lines grew from nothing as civilians joined the military effort. Mechanics turned playgrounds into weapon workshops. Farmers fashioned drones from spare tractor parts. All of Earth became an iron forge of resistance. In a battered New York shelter, medic Aria Flores bandaged a soldier's arm with rough cloth. Her fingers trembled, but her heart stayed fierce. Every scream, every tear, every whispered plea fueled her resolve. "Stay alive," she murmured to each person she treated. "Stay strong. The sun will shine again." Across the Atlantic, in a London cathedral-turned command post, Father Thomas gave water and bread to refugees while coordinating supply drops. Though he was a man of peace, he wrapped a rifle over his back. "Hope is a weapon, too," he whispered as children slept, in pews around him. Meanwhile, far above Earth, the ghost team fled through flickering tunnels of the dying mothership. Victor Hale's lungs burned with every hidden sprint as alarms howled in alien tones. Behind him, Lynn limped from a plasma burn, supported by two teammates. Their mission was meant to be suicide, but they weren't ready to die yet. "Extraction point ahead," Hale gasped through his comm unit. The air grew colder, shadows darker. Vari soldiers stalked the corridors like monstrous insects, their golden armor cracked by explosions. Hale held up a fist, forcing his team to stop behind a spiraling pillar. Alien footsteps clicked ever closer. Hale pulled out a crude Earth device, a handmade EMP grenade bound with tape and wires. "Go," he whispered. He ran forward, tossing the device into the open hall. Blue light erupted in a brilliant flash. Vari soldiers froze, systems glitching with fierce sparks. Hale sprinted through smoke, guiding his team toward a narrow maintenance hatch. One final push, and the ghosts were back in the cold embrace of space, clinging to the shuttles. Sighed as the autopilot activated. "Ghost team returning to Earth," Hale whispered. "Mission a success." In Mira's bunker, cheers exploded so loud it shook dust from the ceiling. She allowed herself one small smile, then refocused. "Prepare Phase 3, she ordered. Rourke's eyes gleamed. "The hammer drop?" "Very same," Mira confirmed. Around the planet, human forces shifted to the offensive. Missile batteries locked onto Vari ground stations built during the first hours of invasion. Aircraft long grounded by fear soared back into deadly skies. They fought with outdated jet engines and reinforced armor patched with household metal, wildly inferior to Vari tech, but carried forward by pure, furious spirit. In Rio de Janeiro, street fighters with homemade rockets ambushed a Vari command outpost. Above Jerusalem, ancient stone walls shielded soldiers firing iron slugs at descending pods. In Mumbai's narrow alleyways, teenagers planted firebombs in garbage bins that lured alien patrols straight into deadly traps. As the world burned, humanity united like never before, not for glory, not for governments, but for Earth itself. One such battle unfolded in the icy streets of Moscow, where snowflakes fell through broken roofs like ghostly feathers. Russian forces, once fractured, now stood shoulder to shoulder with Chinese, American, and German units. Language barriers meant nothing. They fought as one, shouting, laughing, bleeding in shared defiance. "We hold this line," shouted Captain Ilsa Becker as a plasma beam scorched the snow around her boots. A soldier beside her roared, "For every home they took, we take theirs." They fired without retreat, pushing the Vari back step by step until alien boots cracked. Across frozen rivers. Even when Vari armor deflected most Earth bullets, sheer numbers and clever angles overwhelmed them. Inside the mothership, the AI processed one grim truth. Human tactical behavior defies prediction. Probability of suppression dropping below acceptable parameters. Captain Mira read this stolen feed with a cold, humming pride. "They thought our emotions made us weak," she said softly, watching the Vari lines collapse in city after city. "They didn't understand. Our emotions are why we fight." She raised a hand. "Initiate the hammer drop. Finish this." From space, humanity's secret orbital stations opened their hidden bays. Sleek tungsten rods, forged long ago in secret collaboration by Earth nations, were released. Without explosives, they dropped silently toward the mothership, kinetic weapons relying purely on the speed of gravity. Like falling gods, they pierced the sky, glowing white-hot from friction. One by one, they struck. The first rod tore through the Vari ship's left wing, peeling metal like paper. The second rammed its central core. The third shattered the command dome. Each impact shook Earth's atmosphere with thunder. On the ground, silence followed. Humans stood still, covered in dirt, blood and hope, staring upward. As the smoke cleared, they saw it. The Mothership, crown of the invaders, was breaking apart, its great frame shattering into burning pieces raining down like broken stars. Arya covered her mouth, tears streaming. Father Thomas fell to his knees in prayer. Soldiers everywhere dropped their weapons and embraced. Captain Mira whispered 4 words heard across every channel. "It's falling. For us." Across the burning world, voices rose in one victorious, exhausted cry. A roar not of conquest, but survival. Earth had struck back, and humanity was winning. The great Vari Mothership, once a symbol of terror and impossible power, now lay in pieces across the sky. Fiery fragments streaked through Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors, crashing into oceans, deserts, and forests. Some tumbled into cities already scarred by war, but people no longer screamed in fear. They watched in stunned awe. For the first time since the invasion began, the blue planet dared to breathe. On a snowy morning in what was once Moscow's military district, Captain Ilsa Becker's boots crunched through ash and ice as she searched the ruins for survivors. Her breath rose in white clouds while distant fires still burned red and orange on the horizon. She spotted movement behind a broken wall. A young boy, no older than 10, clutched his sister's hand as they stared at her with wide, terrified eyes. Ilsa knelt, heart aching. She removed her helmet, revealing a rough face softened by kindness. "You're safe," she whispered, offering a ration bar. "Earth stands. You fought too, just by staying alive." The children slowly stepped forward, hunger and hope shining together. Ilsa smiled through her own exhaustion, swearing silently that no Vari would ever set foot on their world again. Far to the west, in the Sahara Desert, engineer Jana Patel and her volunteer mechanics repaired battered transport trucks under the blazing sun. They worked with torn gloves and fuel made from kitchen oil. Even as sandstorms blew through shattered supply lines, their spirits did not break. "We keep moving," Jana said firmly as she tightened a bolt with shaking hands. "Every vehicle we fix means more lives saved." Men and women beside her nodded, wiping sweat and tears from their faces. They were not soldiers, but their hearts roared louder than any cannon. At sea, the Titan's shield submarine surfaced at last. Lieutenant Nia Khan stepped out onto the cold Atlantic breeze, her eyes red from fatigue. She stared upward at the broken sky, where the last burning pieces of the Vari ship drifted like dying embers. Around her, sailors cheered and embraced. "We did it!" a young ensign cried joyously. Nia leaned against the rail, whispering to herself, "No, we started it." Because even as humanity celebrated, the next danger stirred among the falling wreckage. Small, sleek escape pods began to descend. Carrying surviving Vari generals and warriors, they would regroup, they would retaliate. The war wasn't over. In the underground bunker, Captain Mira Solon absorbed reports with fierce eyes. Her heartbeat was steady, her voice unwavering, but inside she carried grief for every fallen soul. "Enemy escape pods landing in remote areas," she announced. "They will attempt to restart their invasion with what remains." General Elias Rourke cracked his knuckles. "Then we hunt them down before they regroup." Mira nodded. "Call all active units. Mobilize civilians with combat training. This is our final push." All across Earth, battered communication towers flickered back to life. From broken street speakers, from radios taped with wire, from hacked emergency channels came a message that spread across languages and borders. "This is Earth Command. The time for hiding is over. Every able heart, every brave soul, stand tall. Drive them off our soil." The response was thunderous. In the Brazilian rainforest, tribes joined. Soldiers to chase down Vari pods that crashed through green canopies. In Australia's red outback, Ranchers mounted modified trucks armed with welded cannons, barreling across scorched sand toward alien landing signals. In icy Alaska, fishermen left behind broken boats to become scouts, tracking Vari survivors across blizzards. And in Tokyo, a young violinist named Hana Watanabe stood among other musicians at the mouth of an underground shelter. She lifted her cracked violin and began to play again. The notes rose through shattered subway tunnels out into the ruined city streets. Soldiers heard the sound and felt their hearts surge with a strength deeper than any weapon. Nearby, an old janitor whispered through tears, "That is the sound of Earth refusing to die." Among those who heard the music was Sergeant Victor Hale. His ghost team, now missing several members and wearing patchwork bandages, had landed near Tokyo during re-entry. Though wounded, they refused rest. "We fought inside their heart." Hale rasped to his remaining team, "Now we fight them on our land, until no Vari breathes our air." Together they moved quietly through alleys, hunting down escape pods with human-made scanners strapped together from cell phone parts and radio dishes. No stealth shuttle this time, only feet, courage, and grit. A brutal ground chase erupted near the ruins of Warsaw. Vari commanders, desperate and disoriented, attempted to form a safe zone. Human forces surrounded them in a deadly net. Captain Mira, monitoring from command, watched with narrow eyes. "Aria Flores," she called through her headset. In New York, exhausted medic Aria wiped blood from her forehead and straightened. "Yes, Captain?" "I'm sending you coordinates. There are civilians trapped nearby among Vari survivors. Rescue them. Humanity leaves no one behind." Aria packed her medical kit and headed out with determination burning anew. She reached the rubble-strewn site just as the shooting began. Bullets and plasma ripped the air, screams rising under a gray winter sky. Aria ducked behind a fallen pillar, peeking out to see a Vari warrior strike down a human fighter. Her blood ran cold. "No more," she whispered. Aria scrambled across, broken stone under fire, reaching a mother and child huddled inside a collapsed metro entrance. With calm hands and fierce eyes, she treated their wounds even as blasts tore the air around her. Around her neck, the small silver cross she wore from her late brother glinted. "For him," she breathed. Suddenly, reinforcements arrived. Ghost Team under Hale came from behind, raining fire on the Vari. The alien ranks broke, scattered, and fled. Aria helped the mother and child to safety before collapsing to her knees with shaking relief. Above the chaos, Mira watched countless feeds of ordinary humans doing extraordinary things. Her voice reached them all once more, clear, powerful, filled with emotion. "This is Earth. Every blade of grass, every drop of water, every heartbeat belongs to us. Drive them back. Make them fear the spirit of humanity." Her words became a storm. By nightfall, from the sands of Africa to the high peaks of the Andes, human forces pushed the Vari toward extinction on Earth. The invaders, so confident in their superiority, now trembled before a species they once dismissed as chaotic and fragile. At midnight, the last Vari escape pod burned under concentrated fire from human railguns. A glowing green flare pierced the sky, the signal that the final ground threat had been destroyed. Across the battered planet erupted cheers, tears, laughter, and song. In bunkers and battlefields, people fell to their knees in disbelief. Some prayed, some sang. Some simply lay back and stared at the stars, grateful to be alive. Captain Mira Solon stepped out of her bunker at dawn for the first time since the invasion began. The sky was bruised and smoky, but sunlight filtered through, warm, bright, defiant. She whispered into the still, broken morning, "Earth stands." The wind carried her words across oceans and mountains, and humanity, battered but unbroken, felt the truth of it in their bones. They had turned ash into stardust, and their fire was still burning. The war on Earth was over, but the planet did not rest. Fires still burned in shattered cities, and smoke drifted like ghosts over oceans and forests. The scars of battle were everywhere. Scorched buildings, broken monuments, empty streets, full of rubble. Yet within these ruins, life slowly returned. People lit candles where lights had gone dark. Musicians filled public squares with soft melodies. Children, barefoot and curious, explored with wide eyes where once there had been terror. Captain Mira Solon walked through the remains of what was once New York's Grand Central Station. The marble hall was cracked and blackened, but sunlight now streamed through broken windows onto flowers and small flags placed by survivors. Mira's heart ached and swelled at the same time. Her planet had bled, her people had suffered, but they had endured, and endured beautifully. General Elias Rourke, still wearing his battered armor and a crooked grin, approached her. The council finally sent a response, he growled, waving a data pad. And? Mira asked, watching. Dust swirl in the golden light. They want formal proof of Vari defeat. Otherwise, Earth remains under quarantine. Typical alien bureaucracy. Mira's jaw tightened. We saved this entire alliance, and yet they still look down on us. Rourke smirked. Then maybe we should remind them who we are. At that moment, Lieutenant Neocon's voice crackled over the comm system. Captain, message coming in from space. Unidentified ship entering solar system. Mira's spine straightened. Vari? No, Nia answered slowly. It's Council, and they're not alone. High above Earth, dozens of Council saw. Warships entered orbit, sleek, shining vessels belonging to old alien allies, the Takar, the Marnan, the Seracs, and others, hung in silence like judgmental gods. They had stayed far away when Earth needed them most. Now, they returned. The lead ship sent a transmission. A cold voice echoed across every screen and speaker. Earth Command, prepare for tribunal. You are accused of unauthorized warfare, possession of outlawed weapons, and disruption of Council peace. Surrender your command. Citizens who had just begun rebuilding paused in shock. Rage flickered in their eyes. Around fire pits, on hospital beds, across broken rooftops, humanity listened to the message with disbelief. Medic Aria Flores stood among a row of injured soldiers in a field hospital. Fresh blood stained her sleeves, but hope still shone on. Her face. She heard the council order and clenched her fists. They want to punish us for surviving? She whispered. Beside her, a young pilot growled, Let them come. We'll show them what Earth justice looks like. Back in command, Mira stood calmly before the holographic council envoys. Their alien faces held no warmth, only detached, arrogant. Control. You abandoned us, Mira said quietly. The Vari were a test of your determination, the Takar envoy replied dismissively. We needed to see if humans could withstand real pressure. Rourke slammed his fist onto the table. You watched billions suffer just to test us? The envoy did not blink. And now, having proven your aggression, you pose a threat. Surrender. Across every channel, humanity heard the insult. Civilians paused mid-shovel. Construction workers dropped steel beams. Wounded veterans limped out of clinics, all lifting their heads with burning defiance in their eyes. Mira slowly lifted her chin. You think we are aggressive, she said, softly. Because we refused to die quietly? The council remained silent. Mira continued, voice gaining power. You see ruins. We see home. You see a rebellious species. We see unity. Born from pain, yes, but stronger than any politics or empire. If you try to punish us for surviving, you will learn the same lesson the Vari did. She stepped forward until her face filled the council's screens. Earth kneels to no one. The streets erupted with cheers. Across the planet, humans stood tall with renewed fire in their hearts. Hackers reactivated orbital defense grids. Soldiers reclaimed their positions. Civilians formed human chains, passing supplies, tools, and medicine into bunkers. They had tasted despair and had defeated it once. They would not surrender now. Not to anyone. Sergeant Victor Hale, standing near a ruined Tokyo bridge, spoke softly into his radio. "Ghost team ready?" Jana Patel in the Sahara wiped sweat from her brow and shouted to her mechanics, "Let's power up the launchers again!" Even Father Thomas in London lifted his rifle gently from the cathedral, steps murmuring a prayer as he prepared to fight once more. Seeing the human response, the Council ships hesitated. Their sensors picked up Earth's remaining defenses, powering back up, broken but still deadly. The aliens had expected a tired, broken species too exhausted to resist. Instead, they saw eyes burning with unbreakable purpose and unity stronger than steel. Nia Khan turned to Mira. "Orders, Captain?" Mira surveyed her planet, her beautiful, scarred, unstoppable planet. She remembered every child who had died, every mother who had fought, every song that had risen from the darkest nights. She spoke softly, yet her words boomed like thunder across every channel. "Let the galaxy watch. If they want war, we will. Give them fire. If they want peace, they will bow to our courage. Humanity does not threaten. We inspire." High above, the Council leaders exchanged silent, uneasy glances. They had come to chain Earth, not realizing Earth had become something legendary. People whispered it already across stars, the species that refused to die, the rebels of Terra, the fireborn survivors. Nearby planets followed the broadcast, and whispers became chants. "Humanity, F yeah." Tension crackled in the air. Arya stood, with a bandage roll in one hand and a scalpel in the other, her body shaking not with fear, but a wild, unstoppable pride. "Whatever happens," she murmured to those beside her, "we stand together." Mira raised her hand, poised to give the final command, defend or negotiate, while all of Earth held its breath. The Council envoy glanced at his readings, at the weapons once again locking onto his fleet, at the faces below full of wrath and heart. And finally, he blinked. "This. Conversation will be continued," he said stiffly. "Council ships withdrawing for review." One by one, the alien warships turned away from Earth and vanished into the stars. Relief surged like a tidal wave across the planet. People laughed and sobbed, clutching each other amid broken stone and flickering lights. Rourke let out a booming laugh. "They thought they could scare us with words." Mira exhaled slowly, her shoulders sagging from weeks of tension. "For now," she whispered, "we have peace." She looked to the sunrise pushing through the smoky horizon. Once again, Earth survived not because of weapons, but because of heart. And somewhere, deep in the black silence of space, the galaxy shivered, not out of fear but awe, for humanity had become legend. In the quiet weeks after Earth's victory, something extraordinary began to happen far beyond its skies. Across distant worlds, blazing deserts of the Takar, shining crystal cities of the Seracs, mist-covered jungles of the Marnan, word of humanity's defiance spread like wildfire. Traders whispered it in spaceports, soldiers told stories over campfires, students passed secret messages in academies. The humans fought alone. The humans won. The humans made even the mighty Council retreat. On the edge of known space, an old mining colony belonging to the peaceful Jean species listened to these stories with wide-eyed wonder. Their leader, Elder Sori, was gentle and wise, her skin shimmering silver like moon water. She had once believed humans were reckless, too emotional. But now, she saw something else. They survived not through power, she murmured to her people, but through unity. Back on Earth, Captain Mira Solon worked without rest, turning victory into preparation. She knew the Council's withdrawal did not mean safety. It meant silence before a decision, to accept humanity as equals, or to break them completely. Down in the Sahara, engineer Jana Patel stepped out of her repair bay, wiping grease from her cheek. Her trucks and launchers now stood in neat lines instead of broken piles. Around her, volunteers had grown into a functioning army of innovators, cooks, builders, coders, farmers. She looked up at the stars, wondering if anyone out there understood the true strength of Earth. In Tokyo, Sergeant Victor Hale led a quiet ceremony on the banks of a river, honoring fallen Ghost team members. He planted a flag made of stitched uniforms into the soil. It fluttered weakly in the wind, a symbol of sacrifice. "We did not fight for glory," he said softly to those gathered, "but so children could once again dream." Aria Flores, still healing wounds in a rebuilt hospital tent, placed handwritten letters in bottles and sent them floating down the Hudson River. Each letter carried the name of someone lost. Not to forget them, but to keep their memory alive. "Names never truly die," she whispered, "as long as someone speaks them." Meanwhile, strange rumors began to flow into Earth's new communications center. Lieutenant Nia Khan analyzed signals from the outer systems and raised an eyebrow. "Captain Mira," she said over the comm line, "you need to see this." In the dim bunker, Mira stepped toward the glowing screen. Dozens of alien transmissions scrolled by, coded, panicked, urgent. Messages intercepted from far edges of Council territory suggested uprisings, colonies refusing orders, soldiers laying down weapons, people chanting the same rebellious phrase. Humanity showed the way. "What? Have we started?" Mira breathed. General Rourke chuckled darkly. "A revolution without firing a shot." Indeed, across the galaxy, oppressed worlds were finding courage. The rigid control of the Council cracked as people asked dangerous questions. Why did humans fight alone? Why do our leaders fear them? Why shouldn't we stand for ourselves too? On the crystalline planet Sirion, children climbed rooftops and waved hand-painted banners that read, "Terra Spirit." On the swamp moons of Gurak, miners displayed images of Rourke's ragged grin on makeshift posters. Even in secret, Council officers whispered grudging respect and fear. Back on Earth, scientists studied Vari technology recovered from wreckage. With smashed components and burning circuits, they built new engines, new weapons, new hopes. Humanity's obsession with learning burned brighter than ever before. From universities rising among ruins, new voices declared, "If we must face the stars again, let us go prepared and proud." One evening, Captain Mira climbed to the top of a ruined skyscraper in New York. Below her, the city pulsed with new life. People rebuilt together, planting gardens where bombs had fallen, painting murals of heroes on broken walls, turning once bloodied streets into markets filled with laughter. Music drifted up on the evening breeze. Humanity, battered but brilliant, was alive. She felt someone join her. Aria, carrying a cup of tea. "You should sleep," Aria said gently. "Later," Mira replied with a soft smile. "I keep thinking about what comes next." Aria sipped her tea and looked out at the glowing horizon. "Whatever it is," she said confidently, "we face it together, as we always have." As night fell, stars appeared between long streaks of smoke. Some were bright, familiar, welcoming, while others were far and strange. Somewhere among those distant lights, Mira knew, the Council must be debating. Submit to humanity's unexpected spirit, or crush it forever. But before they could decide, something else happened. One by one, alien ships, not warships but civilian freighters and small diplomatic craft, approached Earth's orbit. Their captains requested permission to land. They brought gifts of rare materials, banners of friendship, and messages full of gratitude. A Takar child stepped off the first ship, holding a handwritten sign. "Thank you, humans, for teaching. U.S. courage." Earth's people lined the landing fields, stunned. Some cried, others cheered. Many simply bowed their heads as alien visitors placed flowers on Earth's battle memorials. News spread like lightning. Species once terrified now sought alliances with humanity, not out of fear, but respect. "Captain," Nia whispered, as she watched alien crafts continue to land. "What do we do now?" Mira's answer was quiet, but powerful. "Now, we lead." Far above, in council chambers light years away, rulers realized too late. Humanity had not just survived. They had ignited something unstoppable, not war, hope. And as that hope spread across the stars like wildfire, every planet began to echo the same daring belief. If humans could stand against the impossible, so could they. Humanity had become more than a species. They were a symbol, and their story had only just begun. Earth, once broken and burning, now pulsed with new life. Rubble was swept away, seeds planted in the ashes, and laughter returned to streets once soaked in sorrow. From space, satellites beamed down images of forests blooming where battles had scarred the land. Humanity was healing, fiercely, beautifully, like a phoenix rising from its own flames. Captain Mira Solon stood on a temporary platform in what used to be Paris's central square. Around her were beings from dozens of alien worlds, some tall and feathered, others scaled, glowing, or crystalline. They had arrived not as conquerors but as guests. They brought gifts, healing medicines, rare metals, and ancient knowledge. Each had come with the same message: "Teach us your spirit." Mira spoke to them with clear eyes and a calm heart. "Earth does not rise because it is strong," she said. "Earth rises because it refuses to stay down." Her words were translated into countless alien languages, echoing across galaxies. Everywhere, beings who had lived in fear lifted their heads a little higher. They whispered, "If humans can fight fate, perhaps we can too." Inside Earth's rebuilt command bunker, General Elias Rourke met with pilots from other planets. They stared with wide-eyed fascination at humanity's clumsy, rugged machines. Earth fighters had scratches, mismatched parts, and names hand-painted by children: Silver Shadow, Phoenix Wing, Grandma's Fury. These ships were nothing like the elegant crafts of the Council, but to alien eyes, they looked like symbols of unbreakable will. "Ugly?" "Sure," Rourke said, patting the rusty metal panels. "But they saved our world. You want to know how? Passion. Every bolt has a story." Engineers from the crystalline Seracs took notes like excited students. Warriors from the Takar asked to join Earth's training programs, wanting to learn resilience tactics. Mavericks from the Marnin volunteered to rebuild Earth's devastated oceans with living coral machines. In return, Earth shared something that could not be measured: raw courage. In a classroom built from scrap metal and old theater seats, young human children taught alien visitors how to draw, sing, and laugh. One little girl offered a Takar diplomat a homemade bracelet made of stones and string. "For luck," she said. The tall, insectoid diplomat held the tiny bracelet as if it were made of diamonds and whispered, "My people thought humans were dangerous. Now, I see you are dangerous only to fear itself." As new friendships formed, Mira worried in silence. She knew the Council was watching. Somewhere, far in the galactic core, they must be planning a response to Earth's growing influence. Would they strike again? Or would they crumble under this rising tide of unity? She couldn't rest until she knew. One evening, as crimson light washed over Earth's western skies, Mira called together her closest allies, Rourke, Nia Khan, Victor Hale, Arya Flores, and Jana Patel. They gathered in the ruins of an ancient library that volunteers were restoring book by book. Around them lay stacks of worn pages, poetry, and wisdom, nearly lost to war. Mira placed a hand on the table. "The Council will not allow this for long. They will try to pull these new allies away from us, divide them, control them. We need a plan before that happens," Rourke grunted. "Let me guess. You want to take the fight to them?" Mira met his eyes. "No. War was never our choice. But if we go to them with open hands, not weapons, maybe we can change everything." Arya nodded slowly. "You want to bring hope to the Council worlds?" "Exactly," Mira said. "Before fear grows again, we show them humanity is not a threat. We are a promise." Hale crossed his arms. "A promise of what?" Mira's voice softened. "That even in darkness, someone will stand beside you." They worked through the night, creating what Nia called Project Beacon, a bold mission to send a Terran delegation directly into Council space. No armies, no ships of war, only a group of humans carrying stories, truths, and compassion born from suffering. They would stand in the heart of the very empire that once abandoned them and challenge it not with bullets, but with belief. Weeks later, a single silver diplomatic vessel, newly built but still proudly bearing Earth's blue and green emblem, launched from a restored spaceport in Kazakhstan. Crowds gathered around giant screens to watch. Children waved, old veterans saluted, and families held hands as fireworks burst behind the ascending ship. Thousands chanted together, full of pride and fear. Terra Invicta, Earth Unconquered. Mira, Rourke, Nia, Hale, Arya, and Jana were all aboard, the first united faces of Earth's new era. As the ship cruised toward the stars, they looked down at their world, patched and scarred, yes, but shining. "This is bigger than war," Arya whispered. "This is about the soul of the galaxy," Nia agreed. Days passed as they drifted across starlit space. Along the way, ships from other species escorted them briefly, offering protection like loyal friends. Messages flooded their comms, voices wishing luck, voices begging for change. As they reached the border of Council territory, Mira sent a single pre-recorded broadcast ahead of them. "We come not to challenge your power, but to remind you of your heart." On the Council capital planet, a polished, perfect world of silver towers, the ruling delegates watched the message in stunned silence. The human ship, tiny yet fearless, was approaching their seat of control. Citizens, once rigid with obedience, felt something strange inside their chests: excitement, curiosity, and courage. In hidden corners, rebels painted the human emblem on walls. In noble halls, whispers turned into arguments as leaders clashed over how to respond. Some demanded they shoot down the vessel. Others begged for diplomacy. The Empire trembled on the edge of change. From her pilot's seat, Mira watched the glowing planet grow larger on the screen. Unknown dangers lay ahead, but she felt no fear, only fierce purpose. "Whatever happens next," she said to her team, "remember what brought us here. Hope stronger than any shield and love deeper than any trench." Hale checked his battered rifle, just in case. Rourke cracked his knuckles with a grin. Arya placed her hand over her heart and whispered her brother's name. Jana smiled softly at the thought of rebuilding, even among stars. Nia's fingers danced over controls with electric focus. The stars shifted around them like a curtain of destiny, and humanity moved forward into the unknown, carrying not the flag of conquest, but the light of impossible survival. Ahead waited judgment. Behind, Them burned the spirit of Earth, unbroken, unforgettable. The galaxy had seen humanity rise from ashes. Now it would see what they could become. The sleek Terran delegation ship glided into orbit around the Council capital world, Helios Prime, a planet of glittering domes, soaring silver spires, and flawless white roads. From space, it looked peaceful, perfect. But beneath its beauty trembled a heart full of fear and doubt. Humanity's approach stirred waves across every level of its society, from noble chambers to hidden slums. Inside the human vessel, Captain Mira Solon watched through the viewing glass with steady eyes. Her breath fogged the window slightly as she whispered, "We sail into the lion's den, but not as prey." Beside her, General Elias Rourke adjusted the collar of his formal jacket, uncomfortable in anything that wasn't armor. "Politics," he grumbled, "is just war without bullets." Lieutenant Nia Khan smiled faintly as she checked the landing codes being sent from below. "They haven't shot us yet. That's a good start." Sergeant Victor Hale sat silently, polishing a small metal tag etched with names of his fallen Ghost Team. Medic Aria Flores tied a red ribbon around her wrist, a symbol of life in some cultures, sacrifice in hers, and Gian Patel reviewed final schematics of rebuilding aid Earth had promised to share. The human ship finally touched. Down in a grand plaza surrounded by towering council buildings, thousands of alien citizens had gathered out of curiosity. Some hissed in caution, others watched with quiet awe. Children perched on parents' shoulders to see the strange newcomers, the species who had defied extinction. As the ramp lowered, Mira stepped forward into blinding sunlight. The massive plaza fell silent. She didn't speak at first. She simply looked around, taking in faces of hundreds of species once unknown to her. Faces afraid, faces hopeful, and then she smiled. "I am Captain Mira Solon of Earth," she said, clearly her voice echoing off stone and steel. "We come not with demands, but with dreams." The aliens listened, some suspicious. Others leaned closer. "Once," Mira continued, "my world stood alone. We were deemed weak, emotional, chaotic. An enemy came to burn us from existence. Our allies turned away. We should have fallen." Her eyes glittered with fire. But instead, we stood. We stood for our children. We stood for our soil. We stood because love, rage, sorrow, and hope are not weaknesses. They are what make us unstoppable. She stretched out her hand toward them, palm open. "And today, we do not ask for power. We offer to share what saved us: unity, courage, heart, not just for Earth, but for all worlds who have lost their voices beneath fear." The plaza remained frozen, until suddenly a small voice cut through the crowd, soft, young, afraid, yet brave. I believe them. A young alien girl, skin shimmering blue and gold, stepped forward, slipping out of her mother's arms. She carried a battered doll. With shaking hands, she offered it to Mira. "For you," she whispered, "because you gave us hope." Mira knelt and accepted the gift with reverence. Around them, the silent crowd exhaled as though waking from a long nightmare. A murmur began, first one voice, then another. It spread like sparks racing through dry grass. Hope. Terrans. Unity. Council guards shifted uncertainly. The ruling delegates, watching from balconies, sensed control slipping. One cried out, "Do not listen to them! Humanity is danger! They will corrupt our order!" But suddenly the citizens, once obedient, did the unthinkable. They stepped forward, forming a protective ring around the humans. Not with weapons, but with their bodies. Farmers, artists, children, warriors, all united, shielding Earth's, emissaries from their own rulers. "No more fear," shouted a Marnan miner, fist raised. "If they stood alone, we stand together." Another chant rose. "Terra Spirit! Terra Spirit! Terra Spirit!" From every corner of the plaza, people joined. Hundreds, then thousands. The sound echoed into the crystal skies, unstoppable. Aliens clutched each other and wept, sensing something ancient and powerful returning to them. The right to hope, to choose, to fight for their future. Mira stood slowly, surrounded by allies she had never met until today. Her heart thundered. "This is not the end," she said, her voice now fierce. "This is only the dawn." At that moment, council soldiers, ordered to suppress the crowd, looked at the overwhelming tide of united beings and lowered their weapons. They turned their backs on their masters to face the humans respectfully, placing fists over, their hearts in silent salute. High above, council delegates watched their grip fade. Panic flashed across their faces. Their empire, once built on fear and obedience, was crumbling. Not from guns, not from bombs, but from the spirit of a single planet that refused to stay silent. Earth's delegation walked forward with the newly united crowd, not as conquerors, but as torchbearers. In that hour, the capital of the galaxy, long ruled by fear, became a cradle of revolution. Back on Earth, billions watched the broadcast in stunned silence. When they saw aliens chanting Earth's name, arms raised not in battle, but in belief, every street, village, and city from Siberia to Cape Town erupted in joyous cries. Bells rang. Fires of celebration roared. Neighbors embraced. Children danced in fountains. Old men wept openly in parks. Aria Flores, standing on the council steps beside Mira, placed her hand over her heart. "They thought we were just survivors," she whispered. "But we were seeds of something bigger." Nia wiped her eyes quietly. "We were never meant to be alone." Victor Hale looked up at the sky. "The fallen would be proud." Jana clasped Rourke's hand, breathless. "We won without firing a shot." And Rourke, the hardened warrior, smiled in a way he never had before. This is the war worth winning." As the chant of countless worlds rose toward the heavens, Mira whispered one final line into the air. "For all to hear, for all to remember, humanity does not conquer the galaxy. Humanity awakens it, and across every star, every moon, every secret corner of space, hope lit like wildfire. The legend of Earth, fragile, furious, and forever unbroken, had just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again."